Yeah, I think you might be right since you guys were mentioning.
Normally we have, this is the least people we've had.
I'm not the draw I once thought I was.
No, it's not you, Adam. We're Stefan is actually, and Len is pretty good too. Stefan is phenomenal with technology.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, well then, tell you what, if nobody minds, very quickly, I'm going to just grab the registration public link and then just send it out to people.
I think
on the mailing list.
That would be terrific. And
yeah, that'll take just 30 seconds or so.
Okay, yeah, that would be terrific. So Adam, where are you right now?
I'm in Davis Square in my office.
Okay.
Lovely city of Somerville.
Are you in the busway?
I am. My office is at 48 Grove Street, and right along here is the busway. Yep.
I am so bummed that Echo Nest left.
I'm not. In addition to the fact that they made me feel old, because it was all a bunch of 20-somethings. They made a lot of noise. They weren't very considerate, but.
Yeah, but they were the brains for the largest music service on earth.
I know, and they made tons of noise, and they had live concerts in the building. It was, when Spotify was here, it was a mess. So
yeah,
I'm not sorry to see them leave. They were not. They wanted a play. They wanted a clubhouse, not an office building.
Yeah, do folks know the story here? You know, Echo Nest came out of MIT Media Lab. And then Spotify acquired them, and they provided the worldwide brains for Spotify. Well, they do.
They did before, and then Spotify contracted with them, and then Spotify just figured, let's just buy them.
Yeah.
But they were they had like live concerts. I went out and came back, and there was a bouncer at the door of the office building, like checking tickets to go in. I'm like, what are you doing? My office is upstairs. This is not.
So I know it's a hard, how do we weigh something like that? We're bothering Adam. On the other hand, all the young people on earth are getting music from this.
Well, I get music from it too, but I mean, I don't want bands in my office building. It's not zoned for that. So.
All right. Okay. Well,
not a nightclub. They built the stage and everything.
Stefan, should we get going or?
Yeah,
okay.
I just sent out the
well, let's
the
not
generalized link.
Let's not worry about it. Let's just proceed.
Yep. Why don't we start by just doing a round of introductions? I'll just start off since I'm talking at the moment. I'm Stefan Wunsch. I'm the co-chair of the overall Writer Oversight Committee. I'm a Lynn resident and been on this committee since 2005. Wig, how about you?
Yep. I'm similar, but without the tech skills.
Well, that's a little bit about
Adam
yourself.
knows me, and the rest of you guys know me, so
yeah. Okay,
we're good.
Len, you want to say hi and introduce yourself for Adam? Oh, and don't forget to unmute, Len.
Sorry about that. Yes, Leonard Diggins. I live in East Arlington, and they've told me my story about the rock. So yeah, I'm happy to be a part of this for a number of years. And yeah, and I'm the co-chair of the Capital Investment and Finance Subcommittee.
And don't forget to also mention that you're on RTAC and Select Board of Arlington.
Yeah, so yeah, RTAC in Arlington, and Transportation Advisory Committee in Arlington. We the Regional Transportation Advisory Council here for the Boston MPO, and Select Board Arlington. Just coming off of the State of the Town address last night. That was fun.
Great.
Excellent. Yeah. And Stan, do you want to say hi? Just introduce yourself for Adam.
Sure. Sandy Johnston. I am a senior transportation planner with the Central Transportation Planning Staff, which is the staff to the Boston Region MPO, which is the body that is charged with coordinating the federal transportation planning process for the Boston region. And we provide staff support to the Writer Oversight Committee, such as coming to these meetings and being part of the conversation. So nice to meet you, Adam, and looking forward to the conversation.
And go ahead, Adam. Let's have you introduce yourself and
No, I'm Adam Dash. I'm the vice chair of the Belmont Select Board, and I'm also an attorney here in Davis Square in Somerville. I have a Charlie card, and it's interesting. I'm glad that Stefan reached out. No one from your group reached out to us ever. I've never heard of your group, actually, to be honest, and I've been in office for 5 years, so it's a little disturbing, but I'm glad to be here. Better late than never, and sort of coordinate, because I think all of us transit communities need to be talking.
No need to feel disturbed. I mean, we kind of fly on the radar, and so I think it's a good way to get honest information,
That's great. No, I do. As I told Stefan before, I also have to bolt at 6. We have some firefighters getting promoted tonight. I have to be there for the pinning ceremony in person. So
that's wonderful. Yeah, no trouble. We will make sure that you're out on time. Just an interesting note for you other gentlemen. I came to be aware of Adam by way of my Harvard colleague Ben, who is Adam's brother. I've been working with Ben Dash at Harvard for probably better part of 15 years, and it never came up that Adam is on the select board and in Belmont and tied into all the things that you're in, and Adam. So this is a real pleasure to not only make the official connection committee-wise, but also to meet the brother of my friend and colleague Ben.
It tells you how highly he thinks of my being on the select board, but that's okay.
well, one reason I don't lead with it, or you mentioned a lot, is like most people don't even know what the select board is.
I was saying this morning, it's like, I got elected. I didn't cure cancer. It's not that big a deal, but in the great scheme of things, but in town, it's a big deal. Outside of you go walk around Somerville, no one knows what it means. So that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, once again, I kind of feel like it is with the Rock. I mean, you're just kind of under the radar. I mean, and you're problem solving, as best you can, and making policy when it's a good idea to do so.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it is worth mentioning that we have over the years put forth recommendations to the MBTA that on a number of occasions have been adopted verbatim as we proposed. I mean, some are relatively innocuous, but I mean, if you've ever been on an MBTA bus, for example, and you've ever heard the announcement about riders and baby strollers need to share the bus, please be courteous. I've forgotten the exact language now, but that actually came out of a recommendation to us. We authored that language and recommended to the agency that they put that forth, and they thought that was such a great idea. It happened relatively soon after, and other miscellaneous small things. But as I was saying before we kicked off the meeting, we are closely tied into pretty much most departments at the MBTA, capital, operating, the equipment procurement process, the equipment design, and in particular, one of the things that we want to talk with you tonight about, Adam, is as Belmont just had the electrified trackless trolleys, aka electric overhead powered buses, converted to diesels for a multi-year interim process, while the North Cambridge Car House is converted for battery powered buses. I wanted to hear from you, Adam, about what was your experience, either just as an individual or on behalf of Belmont, hearing from the MBTA, because I got the impression when I was participating in the public meetings that a lot of the community was caught off guard, seriously off guard, and didn't know about it until the very last minute. What was your take on that process, and how do you think it's going to affect Belmont now that we're into diesels for, I think it's at least 2 years?
I think they told us 2 years. Yeah. Well, I hadn't, obviously, if you watch the video of that meeting or read the local press about that meeting, it was quite clear that I was not happy and I was not notified. I believe it's possible that the MBTA talked with our engineering department. It did not filter up to the select board level and certainly not out to the public. I mean, we had had diesel buses in place of those overhead wire buses when the Trapello Road was redone, because they had to take the wires down in order to do the work, and then they put the wires back. I did not expect that the wires would go away. Now, aesthetically speaking, there are a lot of people who like the wires gone and want them gone. And as long as we have electric buses, whether they're wired or not, doesn't seem to be a big heartburn for a lot of people, other than the fact that we're going to have to deal with 2 years of going backwards in our climate change goals. I mean, we have a municipal light board and a municipal light plant where we own our own electric utility. And when I got on the board 5 years ago, we had like 7% renewable power. We're now up to like, I think 67, and we're going to be by 100% by the end of the year, because we're not Eversource. We can buy the power where we want to buy the power if you're just willing to pay more. And we did customer surveys and people were willing to pay more to get clean energy in Belmont. So that's what we did.
Adam, how much more do you have to pay? Just, roughly.
It's a larger question, Wig, because we buy power in blocks on different contracts that run different times, because you don't want all your contracts to run out at once, then you've got no power at all.
Yeah.
So they all run in they run like in 10-year blocks, 5-year blocks. So it takes years to cycle through the old contracts to get to, and then obviously new places come online and you've got RECs and it gets complicated, but different. My point being that people in Belmont are very attuned to environmental matters. We have an energy committee which promotes them. The Belmont Light's been promoting them. We have a whole fuel pump program which was successful. I've heard we have one of the largest, if not the largest, percentage of electric vehicles per capita in the state. I have one. I think most of the select board has them. I mean, we put in charging stations. We've been very much in favor of doing what we can. We've got some electric vehicles. We're trying to get more. It's become, obviously the cost has been a bit prohibitive, but we've been, we built that new $300-something million high school that just came online this year. And it's powered by, I think, 22 heat pumps are working with it. And then we're talking about completing it with solar array on the roof. Won't cover all of it because it's a very large building, but it will cover a lot of it. We've converted our street lamps to LED, and that process is going forward. And we've seen huge savings in electrical costs. So, we've been in the forefront. There's a private group, Sustainable Belmont, that's been very much advocating for this. I've been advocating for it. And it just took a lot of time to get some stick in the muds, to do it. But to see us go backwards with the buses for 2 years is just disappointing. At the end of the day, I understand it'll all be good, but it seems to me that maybe there was a way to logistically do this where you could have left the old buses up until the electric buses came and then just switched them in an afternoon. But I know it's more complicated than that to take the wires down, but maybe you could have taken the wires down over time, but at least switched the buses out. I don't know why there's this gap. It seems a little odd. And then I get concerned about the 2-year delay, because how long have the red line cars been taking? It's not, every time they order something, it takes forever to show up. It's not, the MBTA's fault necessarily, but this logistical switch is kind of their fault, I think. And it's unfortunate, but, and like I said to Stefan before all of you came on, that we already been having trouble with the new buses because we have a railroad bridge from about 1900 in Belmont Center, which is kind of low. And the bus station was in Belmont Center by all the shops on the other side of the bridge. And with the new buses, they're too tall to go under the bridge. They had to move the stop to the side of the bridge by the church where the stores aren't. So now you have to to get to the bus, you have to go under the bridge, and cross Concord Avenue, which is difficult. And you have to walk distance in either direction to get to a crosswalk if you don't want to get killed, because that bridge is a bottleneck. So you have to walk down, under, over, around, and up to get to the new bus stop. And it's just not great for the businesses in Belmont Center. And I don't know whether we could have gotten a special kind of bus or whether they could have taken this into account. Clearly they didn't. They either didn't take it into account, or they figured great is good for greatest number and we just moved the stop. But it was not a small thing, because then the buses have to turn around, and to find a way for the buses to turn around. And it impacted, the Lions Club and how they do their Christmas tree sale every year since like the 30s or something like that, using part of Royal Road. I mean, if you've ever been over there, we worked out a thing, but it wasn't simple. And now we just voted last night on the select board on Concord Avenue from the Cambridge line to Belmont Center to flip the bike lane with the car parking lane, like you see in some places. So now the bike lane will be against the sidewalk and the cars will be out by the street. And so that one of the things that became a bit of a challenge was because the bus stop moved to that part of Concord Avenue, which is now was a big point of contention last night as to how can we flip it, because now the buses are parked there and in front of the church, and how do the buses come in and out? And so we're going to lose a bunch of spaces over there, and it's not the best bike lane over there because of that. So there've been ripple effects to that, but we're trying to promote, more biking, more walking, less cut through traffic. We did a townwide traffic study a few years ago that showed like 75% of the cars during rush hour are cut through traffic in Belmont. They're not, we checked license plates and all that. They're not garaged in our town. They're coming from all around, some of them from Lensfine community, and just driving through us to get to Route 2 or Kendall Square or whatever they're doing. So it's so we're trying to find ways to sort of disincentivize some of the cut through traffic to the extent we can and put it back on Route 2 instead of on our residential streets, which has been a bit of a challenge all along. But the bike path that we're working on along the train tracks and the T's been, helpful with that because they're active commuter rail line. But we're working on doing that because right now, the bike path comes from Cambridge and ends in Belmont. And then on the other end, Waltham's building to come to Belmont. And we're this missing link because of our density and the hills that we have. It's a very, very difficult, expensive proposition, but we have a route. We're in the tip. We've been going forward and we're doing it in stages and we'll get there. But trying to get people out of cars, get them into buses. It's been unfortunate. I know if you saw on Concord Avenue, they've been getting rid of some of the bus stops and combining them along that stretch of Concord Ave by the high school as well. There are little paper signs saying this bus stop no longer exists. Walk down the street. I don't know if that helps or hurts. And the one last piece that I don't know if you're aware of, we have two commuter rail stations, one in Waverly Square, one in Belmont Center at the bridge. And there was talk, maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago, the T came about getting rid of them and combining them with one new stop in the middle, which would be equally inconvenient to everybody and not in any not in any business center like the two are. And so the select board and everybody pushed back really hard, and the MBTA backed off, but they said, for 10 years, we'll revisit it. So we're kind of coming up on that, and I'm waiting for that shoe to drop. But one of the arguments they had was that neither of those train stations were handicap accessible. So with the community path, we'll be making the one in Belmont Center accessible. And there's a development that happened over in Waverly where they're adding an elevator, which goes down to the platform, which would make that, at least for now, accessible. So I'm trying to remove the argument to take away our train stations.
Oh, good for you. Is that elevator at Waverly privately funded?
Yeah, it's part of a residential development that was done. And they've got an elevator that goes down to the tracks. In addition, with the community path, there's also going to be some, we don't know how exactly, but some public access down to the tracks. Because if you've been to Waverly Square, what they did back in the day was they dug a huge trench and put the train down in the ground. So you don't see it, but you can't get to it. And in Belmont Center, the train used to be a grade and they put it up on a big bridge, which is the one that you can't get the bus under. So, again, prioritizing cars or whatever they were, well, it couldn't have been that. It was 1900, so it probably wasn't cars, but whatever they were doing, we're sort of working with how to deal with it. And there are ways to, with the community path, one of our ideas is to actually put a park on top of that trench, cover it, put a park there with an elevator going down. So at least the community path can go, travel through, and we could beautify
Hey, Adam, can you talk a little bit about interfaces with the T on the one hand and with the MPO and CTPS on the other hand?
Well, we have a seat on the advisory committee, and so we do that. And on the MPO, we're involved with that as well. Not as much because we're a relatively small community of 27,000, but we are involved with those things, and certainly with the community path funding, we've been involved with the MPO.
We got more letters from Belmont on that community bike path than I think you'd ever imagine. I think we got like 900. Not in the last cycle, not this current cycle, but the one before. So you're active. So
like I said, we are an active group of people when it comes to climate issues, and we're not just walking the walk. Because like I said, we're making we can make big steps because we own our electric company, and we've been doing it. And with the new high school, we're the only high school I think in the state that's been got heat pumps down to the ground. So not heat pumps. I mean, what do you call them? The geothermal. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
We have 22 geothermal wells that were built. So I mean, we're doing what we can do here, at least in our little corner of the world, and with the EVs and everything else. And then seeing the diesel buses come in place of the electric buses is just kind of like a bit of a slap. But I understand. Luckily, it's temporary. But I still think logistically, maybe something could have been done to avoid it entirely.
Well, did you ask them what they could have done?
They didn't come to the meeting. It was more of a report out on that. This was what was going to do. I did speak with our state senator about it, and he explained to me the situation and how it was the only way to get from A to B was how it was explained to me, and that was just the way it was going to have to go. And it was unfortunate, but everyone just kind of had to deal with it for a short period of time, and then it would be over. And I'm like, well, I mean, it was not. No one asked me permission, so it's not like I get to say yes or no.
All right, but did the explanation make sense?
The explanation made sense, but it still seems to me that maybe you could have, kept the old buses running until the new buses showed up, right? I mean, why did you have to switch them out like that?
I thought maybe that was a question you asked your senator, and that he explained to you why that wasn't the case. He didn't explain why that was, because I mean, usually there's a reason for everything. It's really a matter of whether the reason makes sense or not. And so I'm really trying to get at whether the reason maybe for why they didn't do what you wanted to do makes sense.
Well, I think the decision had already been made by the time I'd heard about it and started saying it. So at that point, I think it wasn't they're not changing course at this point because it's the ship sailed.
I remember from the public meetings that they made a big point of saying how for a short stretch of, I forget the name of the street, but just at the fork after the supermarket where the Waverly trackless trolley route diverges from the Watertown Square route. Apparently, Belmont has some road work that is going to take place underneath what had been catenary, but more importantly, if I remember correctly, the Watertown branch of the trackless trolleys was going to have a significant amount of road work planned, and there was already talk of needing to take down the catenary during that construction for the safety of the road crews. And so, if I understand it, I'm not trying to make excuses, because I do feel personally very similar to the way you feel, Adam, about this. But if I interpret what the MBTA is saying correctly, there was pressure from probably more so from Watertown to take down the catenary and convert to diesel so that road construction could be started sooner, particularly given another 2-year wait for the battery electric buses and the Cambridge Car House. Could the Watertown trackless trolley have been converted to diesel while leaving the Waverly trackless trolleys through Belmont? I don't know. I just wanted to mention that was part of the reason why the MBTA had said it was pushed forward to be the date of this past March, as it was.
Yeah, I mean, this is not. I mean, we're a big user of the bus system. I don't know if you're aware, but I mean, that buses that run down Trapello Road are some of the most heavily used buses in the area. Many people. I can tell you, actually, I've had to take it when I haven't driven. Sometimes I can take the bus down to from my house by Concord Avenue down to Harvard, and then take the Red Line to Davis if I don't have a car that day. And going over there, I mean, that's a great bus trip because it's the most educated bus trip I've ever heard, because it's every professor and grad student from Harvard, going in from, Belmont downtown down to Harvard Square. It's an interesting bunch of discussions that happen on the buses. They're very, very packed, and they're very, very well used. I mean, obviously COVID has impacted that somewhat, but I mean, we're a big bus community. We really are. And we don't want to, it's not like we don't run them. I am glad they've done things like the bus lanes. that you see over on like Mount Auburn Street in Cambridge and all. I mean, that's been happening. That's been good. There've been a lot of good things the T's done. I don't want to, feel like I'm dumping on them. And they've been very, we've been working with them to do a ton as part of our community path next to the train tracks. They've been helpful. And also we're going to be doing a tunnel under the tracks to the high school, because there's the entire Winbrook neighborhood right now, which you can't get to the high school from unless you go all the way around either way, under the railroad bridge in the center, or all the way over to Brighton Street by Cambridge and around. Is what the kids do, is they cut holes in the fence and walk over the tracks. And that's been going on since the 70s when I've talked to people. And so the idea is there is a place where the street goes down right by it looks like maybe one time way back in the day, there was actually a street there that went there. And they built because the train is elevated.
Yeah.
So the idea is to put a tunnel under, and that's part of our phase one of our community path, is to do this tunnel so the kids in that neighborhood can get to the high school back and forth without having to, get killed over the tracks. So that is a big plus. Why you're getting 900 letters about this, because a lot of people are concerned not just about the path, but about the safety and wanting the tunnel piece of it. But there's always been the issue of, does it have to be going to be a cut and cover kind of thing, or does it have to be drilled through? And the MBTA, of course, is very picky about what you do on active rail lines. And it's
Actually, most of the letters are people who didn't want to pass. So I mean, apparently they were highly organized. I mean, so
well, the neighbors who live on Channing Road next to it are not happy with it, but that's not untypical.
Yeah, right. So I mean, so we understood that, so
90+% of Belmont is in favor of that.
Yeah.
You've just got a very vocal bunch of
Yep.
like 50 houses.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
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 No, I know they didn't vote for me.
Adam, I didn't realize that the usage, as you were just saying, is so high for that the bus. Is it 73? Am I right?
74, 73.
74. Okay.
Yeah, there's two lines. But
Yep.
I don't take the Trapello Road one. So
Oh, that's okay. But I didn't realize it was as high as you're saying. Do you have, or have you heard of any concerns about capacity with the replacement by the diesels, as far as the per vehicle?
I've not heard about.
load?
I haven't heard any issues of capacity.
Okay.
I know but then COVID, I'm not so sure that there's been issues of capacity in general, because we're not back to normal yet. So I mean, my wife's working from home, and they got rid of her office pretty much, and they're just going to do a little crash pad space, and everyone work from home permanently. So it's one less commuter. So
Right.
So I mean, I think that's not a unique story. So I think you're seeing, even now, the traffic's not what it was pre-COVID. So still. So I think, it's hard to take data right now.
Yep, understood. And at our last operations subcommittee, it didn't occur to me to ask our other representative from CTPS, who knows more of the equipment off the top of his head. Do you happen to know if the fleet that's now serving Trapello Road, Waverly to Harvard Square, is that the diesel hybrid where they have the electric boost? That's okay. I'm going to find that out, because I would expect at very least that the agents, I would expect and hope that the agency would at very least deploy the latest, greatest, least possible emission vehicles for that replacement, even though they are diesel powered. There is that that part of the fleet that at very least has the electric low speed takeoff from a stop.
Anything would help. Anything would help.
Yep. The other thing I'm wondering is, when it comes to the area near the bridge near the Belmont station, is there any long-term plan for replacing that bridge? I know it's tremendous in bulk, and is it actually registered as historic? Because
I believe it is. I believe it says 1900 on it. It is it was actually, the town got some private money to clean it, because the T owns it, and it was just a mess, covered. It hadn't been cleaned since it was built, just soot and grime all over it. And so some private individuals got together and had to get permission from the T for us to clean it and power wash it. And some company came and gave a discount and power washed it as just a community thing. And it looks much better. And then we redid the Belmont Center streetscape. We did some nice uplighting under the bridge. with the lights in the sidewalk, shining up. So it's actually really shines nicely at night. So it's a beloved Belmont institution, that bridge. So no, that's not going anywhere. How to fix
Okay.
the traffic bottleneck there, that is something that smarter people than I have tried and failed to do. Back in the day, I've seen pictures from like the 50s and 60s where they usually have a cop there in a little house directing traffic. And if I understand, the cop house got demolished by cars so many times they felt it wasn't safe for the officers, so they just took them out. People kind of get the commuters understand you go every other car, and despite the occasional jerk, it kind of works, although the accidents down there are high. But it's not an MBTA issue. We were trying to get people out of the cars. That's the point. And by having the path will actually go across the bridge. The bridge, you can't tell when you're down on the ground. The bridge is hugely wide because back in the day, there were like 4 or 6 train lines that used to run on that. So there are a ton.
I should have guessed.
There is a
Yep.
ton of room up on that bridge, and that is where the path is going to go across. And there's plenty of room for the active train line currently and the path. I didn't realize that until this was all being discussed, and we had a little tour and climbed up there. And it's amazing because you can't tell from the ground. That's a really wide bridge up there. So there's a way we're actually, and like I said, the whole railroad track is elevated anyway as it goes behind the high school and such. So it's going to be a good straight shot.
It's funny that we were just talking at our last subcommittee about the width of the right of way on the Fitchburg line, particularly with regard to any possible future Green Line extension from the newly opened Union Square terminus of that branch out just one more potential stop to Porter. And I was saying that the right of way had been 4 tracks. I'm really glad to hear that the 4-track width seems to go all the way out to Belmont as well.
Yeah, they were
That's
competing railroads back in the day when they were all private entities. And I guess some of them went out of business, and the Boston and Maine bought some of them, and then the MBTA ended up with them. And so some of those tracks that they actually built their own tracks, I guess, like how Comcast and whatever puts on their wire, and the other ones put on their wire, even though they're all redundant, they all put their own wire on the same pole. So it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The Fitchburg line was built, or actually the Central Massachusetts, which is also being turned into a rail trail. So right away that goes through Waltham and then out west in Sudbury, that area. Laid tracks right next to the Fitchburg through Belmont and over toward Alewife, and it's all very nicely being turned into a trail now, which Belmont's segment of is like one of the critical portions, because you already have the Somerville community path, which links to the path to Alewife, and Waltham is doing their part right now. And then you just have to get over 128. There's a bridge that needs to be rebuilt, and then the Weston wave and west area is already going in, and so there's going to be this nice long path all the way from like Central Massachusetts to Alewife and on into Somerville and Cambridge, which is part of why Belmont's project is so exciting.
I can't wait.
I was also just going to add, I did just check one of the apps, and all of the buses that are on the route currently for the 70 series buses are the hybrids, including some of the very newest ones that the T has bought, although they're functionally identical to the ones that are 4 or 5 years old now.
Right.
That's great.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sandy. That's a huge piece of extra information. That's wonderful.
You're the man. Yeah. Well, I can say that going to town meeting this spring, we're starting town meeting on Monday. There's a Community Preservation Act project for funding for the design of the second and final phase of the path. We've already done the 25% design. My understanding is it's already going forward with the federal funding on that one. And then we're doing the phase 2. The phase 1 goes from the Cambridge line to this footbridge that goes over the tracks over on Royal Road past Belmont Center. And then also that includes the tunnel, which is there's 1A, 1B. And then phase 2 goes from that bridge, what they call the Clark Street Bridge is what it is. And it goes over to Waltham through Waverly. So we're doing it in chunks because they have very different chunks. The Channing Road opposition folks, by the high school are the challenge for 1. The challenge for 2 is just the hill that comes down almost straight to Pleasant Street. And then on the other side of the street, the tracks are depressed way down into the ground. And how do you get the path? Does it cantilever where? Do you have to cross the street cross Pleasant Street and then cross back. We'd rather not. So the design of that's going to be interesting because of we're the last part of the trail for a reason, because we're the most difficult one to do. But it'll get done. I mean, anything can be engineered and done if there's enough will to do it. So we'll get it done.
What's your best and worst case scenario for the time frame of all that, with everything that you just mentioned?
I don't know. It's been going on since the 70s from what people tell me, trying to get a bike path there. But it's we've never come this far, and I understand the funding's pretty much a done deal for at least phase one. And getting from the train station at Belmont Center, over through behind the high school over to Alewife is huge. So and the tunnel underneath for the safety reasons I described, that's massively important, and brings the Belmont Center commercial district into the whole network of paths. So that's fantastic. The other part, linking our two train stations at Waverly and Belmont Center, and then linking obviously into Waltham and beyond, as Sandy said, is going to be that's the game changer, where people from the west can get to the east, just a straight shot. And we've got, there's some land takings we're going to have to do probably. And, that's not super popular either, but, for the most part, not. We have a citizens group, the Belmont Citizens Forum, that purchased a strip of land along the trail that they're going to be donating to the town to add proper width and landscaping buffers for the neighbors. So I think we're making it work, but you don't want to get too close to an active rail, and it gets to be there are parts where there are bottlenecks where it gets a little dicey, particularly as you get down towards Brighton Street on the Cambridge line, where the current path ends. And there are warehouses on both sides, like right close to the tracks. There's not a lot of room to give there. We have barely enough room for a path at all. But, and then do you have to put up walls so that, the trains don't go pelting people with rocks or whatever. It's a thing. If this were easy, it would have been done by now. But like I said, we have that design for that phase 1A. We'll get it done.
Okay. Len, it looked like you were about to ask a question. Was that right? Or make a comment? Maybe not.
The question kind of Sandy, because I couldn't remember. It's kind of tangential. I'm not making any comment, on your possible eminent domain. What was the town that had an article failed in town meeting, and their project that is on the tip? Just was concerned about it.
I believe that was Bedford.
Okay, I knew it was
but they were going to come back and make a second attempt, I think.
Yeah, so yeah, it just sparked that memory, and so I just wanted to remember what that was. I wasn't going to interrupt the conversation.
Well, no, our town meeting already a couple of years ago passed the funding for the design for phase 1, so that's town meetings behind it.
Could I also ask a little bit about Waltham? I haven't been there in quite a few years. Quite a while ago, I was asked to address the city governing body about transportation pollution. And it was clear that their rail was quite complex. They had a lot of legacy issues. And I'm wondering, Sandy, do you have an opinion or maybe Adam, about whether they've straightened out some of those issues? There were a lot of traffic and rail conflicts that had to be resolved.
I can't speak to Waltham. We're working with them on a culvert issue on Trapello Road, but we don't deal with them on that other part of it so much.
Yeah, it's a very, very complex area. As you may know, the Fitchburg line narrows down to one track right at Waltham Station. That was not historically the case, but at some point it was narrowed. And then the platform is split across 2 blocks with a road in the middle. And that would need to be rectified if the station is ever modified and modernized. And the whole area is just extremely complex. There's also a safety issue, as you may have heard, because it was in the news a little bit. Waltham lost its certification as a quiet zone over the last summer, to maintain federal certification as a quiet zone so the trains don't have to blow their horns. The town has to do certain things, which is a combination of infrastructure and other safety practices. Involves putting in sometimes more crossing gates or sufficient warning signage. It's a variety of strategies you can use, but you have to like refresh your certification with the Federal Railroad Administration every 8-10 years, something like that. And apparently Waltham did not keep theirs up. It doesn't seem like there were any substantive issues necessarily, but just somebody forgot to refile with the federal government. I think that's now been resolved, but it was a little bit of a mess there for a couple of weeks. What's exciting about the rail trail is that in Waltham, the two rights of way split, kind of at the eastern end of Waltham near the Belmont border, off of, what's the street there? I'm just looking here, off of Linden Street. And because these are the two historically competing railroads. So the trail isn't going to need to fit into the same narrow right of way with the active tracks. It goes off through kind of northern Waltham, away from the town center area that's so congested and problematic. And then it comes back and crisscrosses over the Fitchburg line just west of 128.
Yeah, I think when I was there had just been a couple road vehicle versus train accidents, and at least one of them was fatal. So that was part of their concern.
Well, we've had we have had some bad ones in Belmont Center, not in Belmont Center, but where the tracks cross Brighton Street over at the Cambridge line there, where people have been stuck on the tracks and been hit by trains. So it's, I mean, it's been a bad situation. So hopefully we can resolve it.
Yeah, I will say that Framingham Center and Waltham Center are the two in our region that make me go, I don't know how we can fix that without making a lot of people really unhappy. Yeah, somebody's gonna, no matter what the solution is, somebody's gonna be really unhappy, and for good reason. It's just they're both very similar situations and very messy, both in similar ways.
Adam, I'm keeping an eye on the time because we promised to get you out by 6. I think sort of to begin to wrap things up, I absolutely don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounded from our conversation, it sounded like the town of Belmont, particularly the select board, all the planning groups at Belmont it sounded like they have a really good relationship with the capital and design and planning teams at the MBTA, but where it was really lacking was the operational side, particularly in the communications about the catenary, the bringing in of the hybrid buses, which are too tall for the bridge, etc. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I mean, I'd say that we were informed, but I think we were informed after I can't speak to the town. I can tell you I was informed after the fact that these were happening, that they were moving the bus stop, and that they were providing the buses that didn't fit under the bridge. I was not consulted in advance on that. So to that, it's a little annoying. I mean, right now the move, and now the fact that the move bus stop last night is causing trouble with our project of flipping the bike in the parking lanes. We found a solution, and we're going to do it as an experiment and see how it goes. My guess is we'll have to continue to tweak it, but it's not ideal.
Understood.
And then combining the bus stops on Concord Avenue, I found out when they started putting the signs up saying this bus stop's closed. So, look, does the bus have to stop every 2 blocks? Probably not. But, A, a little notice would have helped. And B, did you have to combine them as much as you did? Because, streamlining the trip so it doesn't stop. I understand as a bus rider, I would appreciate that. And I think someone can walk 2 blocks. But, the fact they took away the one down at the bottom of my street's a little annoying, but hey, I'll walk 2 blocks is fine. But it's just a little notice would have been nice. That's all.
I'm surprised because they come to Arlington, I mean, just about when they're going to do anything, unless I'm not aware of the things that they don't come to Arlington for. But I think I am because as you know, people are very they care about their bus stops, and where bus stops, we would hear about it, and then we know that so I don't know why they're treating Arlington differently than Belmont.
Because you're way bigger.
Well,
interestingly, I have to mention being a Lynn resident and a block and a half away from me, we had almost exactly the same situation. We have a legacy old railroad bridge that was put in when the line went through Lynn Center, was elevated back 100 plus years ago. And up until within the past 12 months, only the legacy all diesel buses could run under that bridge. The mandate was put out to include the hybrid diesel electrics, and therefore a route had to be changed. So I really feel the pain, Adam, about that change, and I have to go back to Lynn records and see if the T communicated that properly to my own community. I suspect we were in the same boat.
I think we can work on getting this notification thing fixed, in at least in the future. Roy Epstein is your guy on the advisory board,
yeah,
right?
He's a member of the select board, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, so he can at least talk to the advisory board, but I'll try and find out who does the outreach from the MBTA, like who comes to our meetings and what department's handling that, because I mean, I really think all communities should be treated the same. I mean, and you shouldn't have this number of changes without you being aware of it. I mean, you have a transportation department there, Belmont?
No.
You have a planning department, though, of course.
It's all in community development. We're a small town, man. It's like, so you know, we have a a relatively small. We're a small town. We're fairly lean.
I got you.
And we have a town administrator, which means the select board takes on a much larger role.
Right.
And policy and stuff.
So who would the T talk to in your town then if they were going to reach out?
Town administrator.
Okay, fine. And they didn't reach out to that person. So
like I said, I can't speak to that. Like I said, I do believe that our town engineer was aware of the catenary system issue. But it just seems like a lot of things keep happening that I find out after the fact.
I see.
Whether it's the buses at the bus station on the other side of the bridge, the catenary coming down, the stops in Concord Ave getting combined. It's like, is someone going to tell us anytime? I'm not necessarily opposed to it. Just tell me.
Right.
I hear
that's
that.
all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Although I'm annoyed about the catenary, but look, if it's the only way to do it, to get to a full electrified fleet, and we have to suck it up, then so be it, I suppose. But I still want to think logistically, there could have been a way to do it. And I do worry, they say 2 years, when those red line trolleys show up, let me know. It's like those, I don't believe 2 years. I don't.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. I mean, it's like that upgrade will be easy too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I think the standardization of the battery buses will make some things quite a bit easier for the T. But to be honest, they're never going to be as efficient as the catenaries were.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the old timey feel of them. You kind of felt like you were back in the 19th century almost with them. But I do understand that when they took them, when we did the Trapella Road reconstruction, whatever, a while back, whatever, 10 years ago or whatever, and they took that all down, it was like, wow, you can see the sky really clear. It was sort of like, it felt like you had, like they took the ceiling off your room, like the roof off your house or something.
Yeah.
Even though it's just a grid, it really felt much more open and blue sky and very nice. So it was kind of nice. And then they came and put them all back on.
Yeah.
And you kind of got that industrial gritty feel again. But again, it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of fun to ride on those old buses, just sort of.
Yeah, they were very well liked in Cambridge as well. So.
Well, we just hit 6 o'clock, so
Yep.
we'll let you get going. Adam, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really a pleasure to meet you electronically over Zoom, of course, but thank you. I hope this is the beginning of a continued relationship between our committee and you and the select board, because it can only benefit all of us.
Great. Well, like I said, I'm happy to be on. We're on each other's radar, and Roy Epstein, a select board member, is our MBTA, person. But I'm certainly happy. I like to be involved as well. So
Okay.
good to talk to you.
Good to talk to
Likewise. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
So I will have more to say about that in our operations meeting. So I got to run too. So sorry.
Yep, that is fine. Given the small number
Thank you,
of
Ray.
attendees, thank you, Len. Bye-bye. See you next time. I'm tempted to hold off on even the committee reports, because with me representing the operations, marketing, and communications, and Wig representing the capital, we have no one. I mean, we're basically presenting our own material to ourselves. No offense, Sandy. I mean, but we
Yeah, no,
we
don't
definitely
worry
want to have a
about it.
discussion with other committee members.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Interchange.
I think one thing that pops out of the conversation with Adam is that we usually talk to the larger cities and towns, and they don't necessarily have the same issues, especially with regard to managing things from managing the relationship from their side.
Exactly right.
So that was very interesting to hear. Just the fact that the setup is different, and I'm sure Sandy is used to it and all the full-time folks, but I'm used to main towns, which can be even smaller, but they don't have transit. So,
How so? You're used to Maine towns.
Well,
I mean, towns in Maine. How so?
well, I lived in Maine parts of every year of my life except for the first year of the pandemic, and
Oh,
all but one of my immediate relatives live in Brunswick, Maine.
oh, I see. Oh, as being a resident. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Were you also hinting at being active in the community efforts or transportation in
Well,
those
I
towns?
also have paid attention to some of the stuff that goes on in the small towns. Brunswick is quite sophisticated for a town of 20,000. It tends to have governors and senators and a lot of, it punches above its weight, maybe because of Bowdoin and
Okay.
where it's centrally located between the three biggest cities as well. But I'm thinking of towns like Boothbay Harbor and Boothbay and Southport Island, which are, very small, just, within an hour away. And I have gone to some of their meetings just out of curiosity over the years. And, it's really different. It's really different.
Sure.
It's basically citizens, just normal citizens, serving on each of the committees without, well, it's just very, very different. There's no staff, there's no large staff to fall back on, and Belmont was kind of in between.
Yeah, absolutely right. But given the fact that there is a select board and a town manager, I mean, the fact that, as Adam was saying, he was unawares until very recently. That sounds like an opportunity for communications to be improved.
Yeah, but I imagine on the other end, on the government end, it may not always be obvious, who in the town to talk to
Yep, I agree.
over the years as roles change. And
Well, it's not obvious, but it's our responsibility as the bigger organs
Okay.
of government at higher levels to maintain those relationships
Okay.
so that we do know who to talk to. And, I'm not going to say we're always good at it, but one of the things that we at the MPO have been working on is not just knowing, who's the listed contact or who's the town planner, who's the town manager, but who's the person who you really need to talk to in each place about each thing. And yes, a lot of our smaller municipalities may not even have a full-time planner, but somebody somewhere is responsible about these
Yep.
things, and we try to connect them to the T and encourage entities like the T to have dialogue with those folks and say, proactively reaching out is going to reduce your problems in the long run.
Mhm.
But we do try to pay close attention to the capacity that exists in our smaller communities, because it can get overwhelming quickly.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I think the expression applies a little bit. You can't be all things to all people, but there's a happy medium. There's a happy middle ground. I'm also going to take a next step on this, and I'm going to write to our Mass Dot liaison. Wait, you remember Trish? Remember Trish Foley back when we had in-person meetings?
Yeah.
I don't believe she's retired yet, but we have a newer person whose name I can never remember, unfortunately, off the top of my head. But I'm going to write to him and ask him about this kind of thing of the disconnect between the agency and municipalities, and see if I can come at it in a similar way to what, as Len was saying, looking into it from the MPO side of things.
Yeah.
I would encourage you also to speak with our new outreach and communications department, which we're still staffing up. So we have a new manager of outreach and communications at CTPS, Sean Rourke, and a new outreach coordinator, Stella Jordan. We're hiring for a communications position. And so they're thinking very intentionally about how we do this as an MPO, and particularly how we serve that connecting and coordinating role.
Could I ask you a huge favor, Sandy? Could you email me their contact info?
I would be happy to connect you. I'll probably send that email tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. No rush at all. But yeah, that would be huge. Thank you in advance.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I don't want to cut us short today, but given just the three of us, no other attendees, I don't see any comments on YouTube. I feel like we'd be doing a disservice to continue without other members here for whatever reason it was. I mean, I'll try to follow up on through the mailing list about what happened, whether it was a technical glitch from the Zoom invites or what have you. I just don't know right now. Do either of you gents have any objection to adjourning significantly early?
Nope.
Okay. Well, for the record, my clock is going on 8 minutes after 6, and we're going to adjourn, unfortunately, due to apparent technical issues. So for the record, apologies to any members of the public.
No, come on,
who
Stefan.
had
You do,
well, okay.
You do so much work.
All right. And I guess technically we're like cutting off from the public comment period about 22 minutes early, but all right.
Well, we could make up characters from our split personalities, but that probably isn't productive use either.
Yeah.
There's no psychiatrists here, so.
Right. Yeah. Good YouTube entertainment nonetheless.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, pending any other last comments from either of you, I will wish you well and see you at the next meeting.
Yep. Great. Sounds
Have
like
a good night.
plan.
Thanks,
care,
Andy.
guys.
Thanks, Wig. Good night.